I got to use my phone because the computer.
Oh, no, that works perfect. That's all right. You have to run a little bit to grab Sammy?
No, we're good.
Okay.
We got somebody else taking care of it.
Awesome. Sounds like a plan. Thanks for joining me.
Well, thanks for the invite. Good to see you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry for the play, but again, Porter Mosher, I don't know if you've heard him from Loyola. He was calling. He wanted me to give him some advice on how to beat their opponent, Oregon State. So
that makes a lot of sense. So as you know, during COVID, I started to reach out and hit up a few people. And certainly you're always on the top of my list, but I needed to polish up my script before I got in touch with you. So I appreciate it a ton. So I guess just really simply, I think people probably don't know our relationship, but you've obviously been coached my brothers, myself. You've been around the Warner family for a long time. I appreciate everything that you've done for me. But I'm here to kind of talk about Coach Carl Armato, and what got you started. Where'd you start? You went to Boylan High School. You transitioned to Northern Illinois University. You've been at the high school level and the college level. Can you just take us through that a little bit?
Sure. First, you have a wonderful family. I mean that. So I want to make sure that you extend, my goodwill, blessings to your family. It was a pleasure to, coach you and, a couple of your brothers. I'd like to start out by thanking, all the players and coaches that I've had the honor and privilege of working with, and you fall under both those categories.
Sure.
Jason, you were a player for me, and also you did an excellent job, coaching. So I want to thank you for that, as well as all the others. Reminds me of a story that when you were playing, and the guy that you were assigned to was not a good shooter. So I told you, Jason, loosen up. And the next thing I know, he blows by you to the basket as you're doing calisthenics and stretching. I was yelling at you to loosen up. You're in the middle of the paint doing stretching exercises. That's not what I meant, but
true story.
True story. One of many. Well, I got my start playing basketball. Jeff Jamal, a good friend of mine, kind of convinced me to go out in 5th grade. I'd always played in the driveway and, at playgrounds.
Yep.
When I was, 6, 7, 8 years old, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, but I never played organized basketball. And so he convinced me to go out, and, I decided to do it. Baseball was kind of my sport because I had been playing in an early age.
Sure.
And, probably played more football. And I was fortunate enough, we had an excellent coach. And back then it was combined 5th and 6th grade.
Sure.
And his name was Walt Zalaki. And his assistant was Ken Maraji. And, I was first, substitute. It was my initial experience playing an organized team in basketball. And, there were 5 6th graders that were starting. And one of them had to miss one weekend because of I think one of his grandparents had passed away. So
Sure.
they put me in, they threw me the ball. Nobody was guarding me, and I didn't know what the heck to do with it. And I threw it up to the basket, and it went in, Jason. And, a little divine intervention from our good Lord, because, I was a little nervous at the time. But then, I threw another one up there, it went in, and I kind of got a little confident. And after that, I started because it was a tournament. It was at St. James. I'll never forget. It was at St. James, the tile floor. And from that point on, I was hooked. And then I got moved up, the next year when those 6th graders went to 7th, they moved me up. And then 8th grade, their 8th grade year, my 7th, you know, we had a really good team, and we took second in the diocese. We
Sure.
played a team, I think, from Elgin maybe in the semifinals. We beat our region. Then we played a team from Elgin, beat them, and then I think we got beat by just a couple points from a team from Aurora. But that's what got me hooked, having a little bit of success, and also, you know, experiencing, you know, winning is a part of a team.
Absolutely. And then you went on to Boylan High School to play for.
I played for Dolph Stanley, and you know, my freshman year, I was on the B team, and you know, thought I was outplaying the kid on the A team, but that player, he had a brother that was a starter on the varsity, and I think they thought they'd be similar players. And so he was given the benefit of the doubt, and I'm playing these B games, and I remember telling my dad I was outplaying him. And, you know, I said, Dad, you know, one of the coaches, maybe you could say something to him. And my dad gave me great advice, Jason. And you know, I thank him till this day. He said, son, if you're outplaying him, just keep doing it. He said, I'm not going to talk to anybody. If you expect me to start fighting your battles now, you always want me to fight them for you.
Sure.
He said, you just keep doing what you're doing. And I can't tell you when, but I can promise you, if you're outplaying, your time will come. He said, good things happen when you work hard, your time will come. I just don't know when. Well, a couple of weeks later, this player in front of me turned his ankle, and I went in and, you know, was leading scorer in that game. So again, you know, I've had a little bit of luck involved, but, you know, good advice from my parents. And that's probably why I got interested in sports. I heard from people. My dad was a good athlete. He was baseball, football, basketball, but baseball was his the sport he excelled at the most, Jason. Sure. He went into service in the Marines. They put him in special services because he was a good baseball player. He did so well that the Cincinnati Reds scouts saw him and offered a tryout. But his priority at that time was, when he got out of the service, he was dating my mom. He had planned on marrying her, and you know, that was his priority. So he never did take advantage of that, you know, possible opportunity. So, you know, I was always around sports when I was younger. I loved competing. I'll tell you a story. Christmas one year, I think I was in 5th, 6th grade. My parents, they bought me one of those hockey games, kind of like foosball, you know, people that, you know, you have the handles on both sides.
Sure.
And,
yeah.
And, you know, and you got to have a little coordination, hand-eye. And I kept my record. You know, once I got this game, I would play people in my neighborhood, and I was undefeated. And I love this game. And my uncle, one time, we got together, and you know, you dropped the puck from up above. It kind of rolled around and then fell in the middle. And right off the drop, I scored a goal. Sure. And he said he wasn't ready. He goes, no, I wasn't ready. That doesn't count. And you had a little, you know, lit up scoreboard where it would keep scoring. You played to 5. So that goal didn't count. And I'll never forget it. I shot another one, and it got wedged in between the goalie and the net. And usually, you know, 99% of the time, the only way to get it out was you had the goalie, you had slide, and then the puck fell in. Well, he grabbed it. Sure. And I said, that's a goal. No. I lost 5-4, and I cried, and I told my dad I never want to see my uncle again, because I was so, that told me right then and there that I'm competitive. Yeah,
no, 100%. And before I'd love to hear about your college days at NIU, but before we jump into that, you know, every time I'm with you on the sidelines or playing with you, there's something that just trips your trigger, and you use it as just such intrinsic motivation, because your hatred for losing is so high, and it's such a compliment to you. And out of all the positive traits that have passed on to me, that's one I just continually remind myself of. And I think you can you could probably tone your temper a little bit better than I can, I'm sure. But your aggressiveness in regards to hating to lose, just explain that a little bit, because I know that's the type of players you love to coach as well.
Well, I tell you, after playing for me and coaching with me, I think you nailed it, Jason. I probably hated to lose, more than I enjoyed win, if you could believe that. I always felt I could do something more, whether it was on the defensive end, I could stop somebody from scoring, or on the offensive end, either scoring or getting the ball to somebody that could have to make a difference. But again, that was just at a young age. You know what? Again, I got to give my parents credit because they never pressured me. Jason, as you know, I've been around the game a long time, and you see, some of these kids, they're playing because their parents want them to play and they want them to be the star.
Sure.
And if they play poorly, they may say, hey, we're going to go to the gym, and guess what? You're going to put up 1,000 shots.
Sure.
And you're going to do this. And you know what? It takes the fun out of it. And maybe the desire, it's got to come from within. I remember when I was young, missing a shot that could have won the game. I think I was in grade school, and I was beside myself, and tears in my eyes. And my dad just put his arm around me and said, son, don't worry about it. There's other games. You'll get them next time. Let's go have a cone or something like that. And I was, and I appreciated that, because he never, ever pushed me into it. And he just said, enjoy it, have fun. And whatever you do out there, you'll never disappoint me. You'll never disappoint. And I wish more kids would hear that.
Yeah, absolutely.
These pressures. But, then I played for Dolph Stanley, who was a Hall of Fame legendary coach. So I was blessed to play for, an excellent coach in grade school, excellent coach in high school. Dolph was, one of the smartest coaches I'd ever been around. And he taught me the fundamentals, and everybody else in, cutting back door, the art of passing, moving without the ball, how to draw fouls. Jason, when I was a senior, this was brought to my attention by somebody I played with or played against in high school. A guy that was 6'5", 6'6", that played at East, that was a low.
Sure.
You know what, Carl? They used to keep stats when we played, and they had them in the newspaper. They'd have your scoring average.
Yeah.
They'd have your maybe rebounds, and they'd have your free throw, how many attempts. And they used to have that once a week, Jason, during the basketball season. And he said, Carl, you attempted more free throws than anybody in our conference, and it wasn't close.
Sure.
Jason, that was Dolph Stanley. He taught me how to shot fake, read the angle of the defense, so when they left their feet, and to take a dribble, if I had my dribble, and go up and shoot as they landed on me.
Sure.
And in the NCAA tournament these last few days, some kids do that where they try and draw it. Yep. I was doing that back in the 70s because Dolph taught me. He taught me how to dribble, and if there was somebody chasing me from behind, how to kind of shift in front of them, and as soon as I felt the contact, fall down on the floor. 9 times out of 10, the official's going to call it. And if we were in the 1-and-1, I would do that. So I would try and manufacture different ways to get to the free throw line. Then I've got a story that I think I probably shared with you, being a Catholic school, and Boylan always wanted to be setting the example of doing the right thing and being asked. But Dolph told me, Carl, my senior year, your best free throw shooter, you got to get to the line as many times as you can. He said, when there's a 1-and-1, when we're in the bonus and there's a foul at the other end, told all of us players to get together, huddle, walk down to our free throw line. He told me to break off to the free throw line and everybody else filling around. He said, do it. He goes, do it until the officials warn you. He goes, Carl, they got to warn you before they give you a technical. Because if you did it and they warned you and you did it again, it was a technical, Jason. So I did this throughout the year, and nobody ever even warned me until one time. I had done it 3 or 4 games. And I think in this coach, and all of a sudden, the officials stopped play, went over the scores table. They brought Coach Stanley over there. They brought the other coach. It was a big discussion. I'm standing free throwing. The official came up to me and he goes, listen, there is some confusion, and the other coach has said you have gone to the line a couple times now when you are not the one that got fouled.
Yeah.
You know what? We're going to watch it closely. And back then you only had two officials, so it was.
I think I lost your voice, Coach. I think I lost your voice. Did you mute it?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
All right. Our principal came up to me in the hallway, grabbed me by the back of my shoulder real hard. And I looked, I didn't know who it was. I thought it was a classmate. And he said, listen, I was at the game because it was a home game. JC goes,
yeah.
I was at the game, and he goes, I'm aware of what went on. He goes, that coach from the other team was right. You went to the free throw line and shot 6 to 8 free throws you shouldn't have shot. He goes, you know, Carl, this is a Catholic institution. He goes, we are supposed to set the standard for values, morals, honesty. He goes, I don't ever want to see you do that again. He goes, if you do, you'll never play another game here at Boylan as long as I'm the principal. He goes, and I'll be here long after you're gone. Don't do it. So I go into practice that afternoon, and I go run up to Coach Stanley. I said, Coach Stanley, our principal, who happened to be a priest, said, I can't shoot free throws anymore if I'm not the one to get fouled. He goes, he did? He said that to you? So yeah, he said he was at the game and he saw what went on, and he goes, I can't ever do it again. If I do, he's kicking me off the team. He said, wow. He goes, what were the reason? You know, it's dishonest, immoral, you know, it goes against all the principles Boylan upholds. He goes, well, he brings up some valid points. He says, you know, Carl, I've never seen him at a road game, only at home. Do it on the road, just don't do it at home. That was Dolph Stanley. He would find any way he could, stretching the rules to win. But I tell you, he was such a forward thinker, Jason, such a forward. He thought outside the box. He was ahead of his time and was brilliant. So then I go to Northern. Well, actually, Dolph used to coach at Beloit College. You were aware of that?
Yeah.
He took Beloit College, tiny Beloit College, to the NIT Final Four.
No, yeah. Yep.
Johnny Orr played for him on that team, the legendary Johnny Orr.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so Dolph, when I ended up at Boylan, you know, my senior year, I ended up, leading the league in scoring. Not so much because I was good, because we didn't have anybody else my senior year. Sure. that was interested really in playing. I think they did it more for fun than the seriousness of it. So, you know, we didn't have many kids that could score. And so therefore I scored some points. So Dolph had me all lined up to go to Beloit. And I didn't want to go there, but he said, that's where you're going. It's perfect size for you, Carl. You'll play. I know their coach well. Well, Lewis University, Division II,
yep,
wanted me to come play baseball and basketball, and they were going to give me a little money. It wasn't a full ride, Jason, but I was going to have to pay maybe 60, 70%, and they were going to pay about 30 or 40.
Sure.
Which was pretty good at that point. And so I thought about doing that, and I think that's what I'd settled on. And out of nowhere, a friend calls me and says, "Hey, Carl, there's a scrimmage game going on at NIU. I know one of the people down there, and they've invited me. I asked them if I could bring a friend. I told them and we're going to go play. And some of their basketball players are going to be playing in it. It's just a pickup game."
Sure.
Northern's not that far. So I said, "Sure, I'll go down." So Jason, I went down there, no pressure.
Yep.
What I didn't know is one of the assistant coaches was watching. And here I am, this skinny kid, about almost 6, playing, and nobody guarded me. And it's the only thing I could do in high school. I was a one-trick pony. I could shoot it.
Sure.
I couldn't pass it. I couldn't defend. I couldn't dribble. But Coach Stanley told me, "You're a shooter, and that's all I want you doing."
Sure.
So that's what I did. Well, when I went down there in the scrimmage, nobody's really playing. Nobody guarded me. And, I had a great shooting night. I think out of maybe 15 shots, I missed one.
Sure.
So the next morning, we get a phone call, and it's the assistant from Northern with the head coach. And they wanted me to come down there for another visit and to, play. And the rules were different back then. You could scrimmage in the offseason. And they gave me an opportunity. I said no to Lewis, thought, hey, this may be the only chance I ever get.
Sure.
They told me they had given their scholarships out, but they had a strong group of number-wise juniors and seniors that would be graduating in a couple of years, and
Sure.
that if things worked out, as soon as they could give me a full ride, they would. But they said you gotta have good grades, and you got to prove that you can play at this level. And I was blessed again, somebody looking out for me, our good Lord. I went to the perfect place with the perfect coach.
Sure.
Because all the fundamentals I learned under Dolph Stanley. The one thing I didn't learn was to be mentally tough. And he told me if I ever touched a weight, Dolph Stanley told me in high school, if he ever caught me lifting a weight, he'd break my arm. And then when I went to the weight room at Northern, the first time I ever went in, I got this little cotton tank top on. Coach Google looked at me and he says, "Young man, I've seen bigger arms on a clock." And he was right. And so Coach McDougal, the first year or two there, he told me, he says, "Carl, your problems, you're nice." I
lost your video, Coach.
All right,
I hear you.
Back here. We might get it back.
Perfect. We're good.
About having the phone, there was a phone call.
Yeah, that's all good.
And so he told me, he goes, he had a unique way of getting his point across. Coach McDougal did. He was the master without stating the obvious. And
Yes.
he said, "Young man," he goes, "you're too nice." He goes, "Your problem is you're too close to your mother's womb still." He goes, you got to sever the umbilical cord.
Sure.
And it hurt my feelings, and I didn't like him at first. But after I understood what he was trying to get at, the light went on, Jason, and it changed my whole demeanor.
Sure.
That competitiveness that I always had now turned into something where I had to prove to him that being the smallest guy at that level,
yeah,
I'd be the toughest guy on the court, because I knew that's what he wanted out of his leader and his point guard. And as I was a shooter and a 2-guard at Boylan,
yep,
he turned me into a point guard, because
Sure.
he said that is the quickest way that you'll see the floor, Carl. He said, and you need to develop those skills, your defense, your ball handling, your passing. And that's what helped me become a coach.
Sure.
Because I started to see the game from a different perspective, and I could actually see things develop, people getting open before they actually were open. And that's what I loved about the game.
Yeah, absolutely. When obviously you remember, but when I was your assistant at Rock Valley, I had the opportunity to be co-assistants with Coach McDougal. And I learned an absolute ton from him. And I could imagine playing for him back in the day. What would you tell Coach McDougal today if he had the opportunity?
Well, I'll tell you what, many times, I told him how much I loved him, and that outside of my parents, he was the biggest influence in my life.
Sure.
And he told me something one time. He had such a great relationship with all of his players. They all loved him. But he said very, very seldom did he refer to his players as son.
Sure.
And he used to refer to me as his son.
Sure.
And he had 3 daughters who love him dearly.
Yeah.
And he was close to him. But he told me that because of how I came to Northern as a walk-on, what I went through, in terms of when you're a walk-on, you're out of 15 scholarship players, and that's how many scholarships they had back in those days. It was before gender equity, which I'm glad is around, but there were 15 back then. I was the 16th player kept, Jason.
Sure.
And the players would ask me to clean up the locker room after practice, to carry their luggage. I didn't travel much my freshman year. He rotated, some of the traveling team, because there was another kid that walked on too. But they would ask me to, carry their luggage onto the the bus, or if we were in the airport, onto the conveyor belt, stuff like that. And I just stored that in the back of my memory. And when we hit the practice floor, I had a target. I put a target on each and every one's back. And, I couldn't have done it without Coach McDougal's influence and encouragement to get mentally tough and to persevere through tough times.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to hear it. So, a few weeks ago, I interviewed Ryan Hoover, who played at Hononegah and then at Notre Dame. And one of the things I talked to him about was, the all-decade, or I guess all-century team that the Rockford Register Star put out. And one of the guys that I had mentioned was Alan Rayhorn. And I told Hoover at the time that I just thought that I don't know Alan Rayhorn. I've never seen him play. I've heard of him through you. And I don't know, I wouldn't put him in my top 5 because he wasn't part of my era. Where do you see Alan Rayhorn as a player, as a friend, as a teammate?
Well, first off, you do a great job with these. I watched the whole, podcast with Ryan.
Yeah.
And you did a great job. And, Ryan, what a great player and what a great person. I've known him for a while. He actually played in Italy with Anthony Mastranzi, who played for us at NIU. And, I was close, with Anthony, and they played together. And Anthony said great things, about Ryan. What a great teammate. What a great teammate. And that's important. And I'm going to tell you what, your 4, you had Fred, which, obviously, there's your quarterback. There's your leader, your point guard right there. You had Lee Lampley, maybe the best scorer ever in the Rockford community. You had Ryan Hoover, maybe the best pure shooter.
Yeah.
the area. And then you had Danny Jones, who I had an opportunity to coach at Boylan. I was an assistant to Steve Gores, when Steve had those great teams.
Yep.
And I'm just going to tell you something. You would want Allen on that 5. And I'm going to tell you why. Danny, power forward. Ryan, unbelievable shooter. Lee, unbelievable scorer.
Sure.
Fred can do it all. But you need a rim protector.
Yeah.
And Alan Rayhorn was 6'9", maybe a little over. But Jason, he had a wingspan of 7'2", unbelievable timing, unbelievable toughness. He was a farmer. He was stronger, and he ran under a 5.5 minute mile at almost 6'10".
Sure.
I mean, he ran like a 5:20 mile.
Yeah.
And he had a great touch. He could shoot the 3. We didn't have a 3 back then, but we were at Central Michigan. And for some reason, we had 7 players that were. I was redshirting that year. They took me with in case injury or somebody fouled out, and we went down to 4 players. Coach told me, he goes, Carl, I hate to do this to you.
Sure.
But we may need you. Well, Allen, we go up there with 7 players. A couple of our best players didn't make the trip. And Allen hits about a 20-footer at the buzzer, Jason, to win the game. So 1, he was a tough player. 2, he was at his best when his best was required. And here's the other thing. He was good in practice, but not great.
Sure.
Now, sometimes it goes the other way. Sometimes you have guys that are great in practice, but aren't very good.
Right.
On proud. Allen, just the opposite. He was good in practice. He was great, even better in games.
Sure. I believe it. And I know, and the reason I share that is because I think it's only fair to make sure that people know his successes and solidify his spot kind of on that Rockford Register Star ranking system. And I just for the record, I don't want this to be confused either. I don't consider you in my era either. Having said that, I'm picking you up, Coach, every day of the week. I would imagine at your age currently, you're going to probably still walk over a heck of a lot of high school kids and probably most of the college kids around here. So I need to flatter you a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's the undeniable truth that I know. But I grew up watching that first year, probably that 80, I don't know what it is, 87, 86 year of Danny Jones or whatever it might have been. So I've been around for low 30s in regards to the years of watching high school basketball. But I don't consider you in my era, or Alan Rayhorn for that matter, I guess. But certainly one of the best.
Well, Jason, I'll tell you what you're doing right now is great for our community. And I mean this, great for kids that are in the developmental stages of, their life. And you're helping molding, their character and their development. They're boys right now. So in what you're doing is helping them to develop into a man and make the right choices and do the right things. And, I tell you, that takes a lot of time and effort that a lot of people aren't willing to put in for the good of others. And so, I mean, and what you said about me, I'm flattered, humbled. That team that you were talking about, you might include me, or you're picking me. I would be carrying their luggage and cleaning up.
Oh shit. Oh, that's too funny. So I know you got to run, and I'm trying to keep these. We could talk for 24 hours, as you know.
We could. You're right.
But a couple things from you that I've just carried over is I think you had an unbelievable nature to convince your kids, sometimes force your kids, but make your kids buy into the fact that their job was to make other players better around them. And that you couldn't care less if somebody actually kicked the ball in the basket as long as they didn't get beat on straight line drives to the basket.
Yeah.
And besides being a great role model and a friend, that's what I take from you. So I appreciate it a ton.
Oh, you know what? I really appreciate that coming from you. And, you know, again, we talked about Coach McDougal, Jason, and I was more of a selfish player my last year in high school,
Sure.
just, hunting shots, chasing shots. And when I got to Northern, that's the one thing that I developed was all the things that he encouraged me to do. A lot of them didn't show up in the box score. Taking charges, setting screens for my teammates, getting them the ball at the right time, at the right place, helping on defense, being in the right position, sacrificing my body to take a charge, doing anything and everything it took to win a basketball game. And that's all I wanted when I coached.
Sure.
Emphasis. That's what I wanted my players to learn. My philosophy was simple in coaching. It was to play extremely hard with everything you have, so you leave on the court when you leave it, and to play together and unselfishly.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And what I don't want to miss out on sharing with you, in addition to those things, is just the discipline that you certainly instill, and I appreciate it a ton.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jason, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Love you, and all you did, the long hours. You were somebody that as you got older, you got better. From when you were at Boylan to where you were at Rock Valley to we played together in leagues and in tournaments, I wanted Jason Warner on my team. And I mean that. And so the coach, all the things you didn't help out, and that goes to all the players that ever played for me and the coaches. I want them to know how much I appreciate it. A lot of times when you're in the moment, you don't really take the opportunity to tell them. Anybody listening here, you know what? I just want them to know how much I appreciated what they did, both coaches and players.
Well, that's awesome. And the fun part about this is that I get buddies that are like, "Hey, Jason, I'm hopping on a treadmill at peak at 7:30 in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning. When's your next video or your next podcast or your next YouTube show coming out?" And I know it carries on, and I know there's not 1,000 views or 10,000 views, but there might be 5. So 5's better than 0, and I appreciate it a ton, Coach. It's been fun talking.
And you do such a great job. It's growing, Jason. If I can do anything to help, let me know. I really appreciate catching up with you.
Awesome. Love you.
Love you too. God bless.
Thank you.